It's normal to be afraid in the midst of circumstances that seem outside of our control. You may be experiencing fear and anxiety as you face the realities of the coronavirus. What if I get sick? What if someone I love gets sick? Or maybe you're like me and experience anxiety more about the impact of this virus in Seattle than the virus itself. What does this do to the economy? What if I really need this item that's in high demand? The phrase "fear not" appears many times in the Bible. This is no surprise. Most of us have learned fear as a way of life, and there are countless realities in our world that are scary and concerning, like the coronavirus. And yet, knowing these realities, Christ calls us to trust Him. In John 4:18, we are reminded that perfect love casts out fear. This might be a comforting verse for some of you right now, and others of you might want to throw your laptop or cell phone at my head. Does this verse have something to say to us in the midst of a pandemic? Hear me out, because it's easy to hear this verse and translate it into, I have to demolish all my fear by myself. And I want to push back on this belief. If God is all loving, the source of love, then it is His love that is fueling this call to fear not. So maybe fearing not is more about receiving the love of God in the midst of our fear rather than trying to zap it away. On March 8th, our pastor of teaching and formation, Abby Odio, gave a model for how to respond based on Psalm 77. We lament, we selah, or pause, and we remember. When our fear and anxiety comes up, we acknowledge it. We let it have voice through conversations with friends and family, through honest prayer with God. Remember, He can handle your honesty. We let it all out, the what ifs, the irrational fears, the rational fears, the questions. We cry, we shout, we punch pillows. You can do this right now by answering the question, how do I really feel about the coronavirus? Not how should I feel, but how do I actually feel in this moment? You can write this down or pray it quietly, but sometimes the best way to give our emotions voice is by speaking them out loud. Lord, I'm stressed out. I don't know how to deal with feeling out of control. I'm afraid for my parents who are vulnerable to this disease. What do I do about my kids for the next couple of weeks? Let it all out, and then, Selah, we pause. While the actual translation of the word Selah is unknown, in the book of Psalms it functions as a pause. Sometimes we need to take our own moments of Selah, especially with the virus. We might take a break from reading the latest article with all the virus stats. That's a hard one for me. Or we pause from commenting on Facebook posts about toilet paper hoarding. We stop, we listen for God, we get quiet with Him. One way to do that is through a breath prayer, a simple way to slow down and realign with the truth of God's loving presence with you, right now, in this moment. You can practice this by taking a few slow, deep breaths. Once you find a steady rhythm of breathing, inhale as you pray, Jesus, your love, and exhale is bigger than my fear. Continue practicing this throughout your day, especially in the moments when your fear is most active. But you can use any verse or phrase as a breath prayer, although it's helpful to pick smaller ones. Now we remember. And remembering has this way of recontextualizing our story. Because if you're like me, the story seems like it centers all around the coronavirus. But when we take a step back and see this moment in light of our larger story, in light of God's larger story, we see it differently. We not only remember what God has done, but we remember who He is. And we need constant reminders that He is loving and faithful and present with us most days, but especially right now. An easy way to remember is through reading the Bible, God's story. There are so many moments captured in the Bible where God proves His faithfulness in the middle of horrible circumstances. Or you can think back to moments of your life that were challenging or scary and recall how God showed up. You might want to take time to remember every day to reorient yourself into God's story. As I finish, listen to these words from Psalm 23, which reminds us about who God is and that He is always with us. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for His name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever.